Do. What up, traders? What up, investors? Ken here from Dyslexic Investor, and thank you so very much for tuning in for another fantastic live stream. Let me put my phone away here, and we're going to be looking at a lot of the stuff that's coming out with earnings this coming week. We have majority of the banks reporting on Thursday into Friday. We can kind of jump through and look at that sheet there. John says he's first here. Awesome sauce, dude. Let me just pull up the complete list of the earnings that we're seeing right here. Let's see here, earnings whisper. That's where I usually get all my data from. Let's pull that up over here on the screen. So you can kind of see here, we have, of course, Delta Airline, JP Morgan Chase Bank, BlackRock, huge asset management company, another bank, not too sure what the other ones are. EEG, I think that's an oil play. I'm not sure. That doesn't ring a bell. Of course, we have TSM, huge semiconductor play there. Of course, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citi. We get that Domino's. Let's see how they're doing. Again, Domino's especially going to be very relevant to the shortage of jobs. And of course, United Healthcare is always a good marker to kind of see on how that business is doing. Del Taco, didn't even know that they were public. Alcoa used to own a lot of that, not anymore. JB Hunt Shipping and Trucking Company. We'll see about that kind of with JB Hunt and also with Domino's. We're going to be looking at on the potential shortages in the market for labor, because again, we're seeing a lot of people who are not going back to work. There's really rebound of not seeing a lot of these services coming back fully. And of course, we have Charles Schwab and Goldman Sachs, which is ticker symbol GS. So yeah, Lewis, Dave, what's up, my friend? Yo, what's up, friends? I appreciate everyone coming out. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. So what we like to do, we can kind of look at here if people want to just kind of dive into the markings of the overall indexes. We can kind of just throw the S&P 500 on here. Again, this is /ES. We're looking at a weekly chart where you're kind of seeing a little bit of a pullback breakdown that we're seeing here. Again, these trend lines are just kind of to help more of a visual standpoint. They're not like tying anything too heavily to them. We're looking forward to this potentially to kind of see the S&P 500 potentially, if we start seeing some very initial stronger support around 42.68, we can kind of pull up SPY to kind of see on how that is. Let me pull up Epic Pen here as well. Then we can kind of look at this stuff. So what we're really looking for in like SPY initially is around that support around 425 to like 424 on the labels here to kind of see on how potentially things could line up in the proceeding of the market, of if we're going to see some more selling coming through. So again, basically this line right here is going to be that stronger support here. We're going to draw a nice little castle on here to kind of make it a super strong base here and fortified this concrete wall here. We're going to put some triangular shapes in here because triangles are super strong for structures. So that's basically going to create that little fort there to kind of see if we can kind of hold that particular pattern there. If not, again, to fully understand what we're looking at here, we are looking at the weekly side, okay? So this is one of these bars is 1 week over 3 years. So it is very common to potentially touch this 34 EMA here on the weekly side, which is around 420. No pun intended, right? 420 that. So that is, again, we've seen that kind of on this upward trend. Again, this was that pandemic rebound that we saw here. And we really just saw things just kind of rocket ship off here. We see also this 8 EMA on the weekly side has been support all the way up. Now it's kind of becoming some resistance. Again, we're trying to break back above it. So on the flip side, if we're trying to go find support on the bottom here, we're finding a pretty tough ceiling here above this level here. This is just a lot of cement blocks, a lot of rebar that we have to break through. This is what that is right there. I'm a terrible drawer, but that's why I didn't go to art school. to really break above that 440 range. That's going to be the range that we're looking for to potentially see a breakout. Again, that is the 8 EMA on the weekly side. So that's going to be something to be to look out for and to kind of put on your charts. So give you a little bit of a synapse here. We're going to be looking at the expected move this week, which again doesn't mean it has to happen. The expected move for this week is only $8.13. And again, we are on monthly expiration, right? So October monthlies are coming up, right? This is insane. Like, time is flying pretty fast here. Already hitting monthly expirations. Normally, a keyword normally, let's kind of break this down on a daily chart. We can potentially see some chop. Even here on the daily side here, now we're going back to the D, which is for daily. We're seeing that same kind of chop action and really kind of failing at that 34 EMA. So if we get past that 440 range and get any kind of significant volume coming in here, that we can kind of see this push up and out and kind of get this this slower the faster moving 8 EMA on the daily chart to pop past and break through the 34 EMA. That could be a positive sign for potentially some staying power in that time frame, because you can see on this particular time, this would be towards the beginning or the end of September here. We did not see that 8 EMA cross through the 34 to kind of see any kind of follow through to break out, and it kind of failed, and it actually broke lower than the previous low. Didn't never close below that previous low, but it got super close on doing so. So it wasn't a complete break, depending on what your technical savvy chart patterns will tell you on that front. I want to go look at that. And then, of course, at the same time, we want to look at the QQQ. That's the NASDAQ. Of course, this is one that's going to be a lot of the faster moving folks. This thing has come down to the 34 EMA multiple times in here. We've seen it once. We're seeing it twice. We're seeing it 3 times. So 1, 2, and can this stay? Well, we do not know. Question mark, big question mark. We do not know that quite yet, if that's going to be potential to stay. Because again, we're not seeing that follow through again of the 8 EMA really crossing through the 34 to kind of see that kind of come back. We are seeing a lot of volume, which is very true to the market when you're seeing volatility, but we're seeing that more of a bullish kind of move that a lot of people are talking about, buying the dip and all this kind of stuff. So we'll see on how that one plays out. Again, what's up, Kelly D? Dave is talking about EDIT. Can we possibly get worse? Almost 50% this month. Yeah, things can go to zero, right, Dave? That is, yeah, that's not a fun thing to look at here. So we're looking here at the daily side there, Dave. So we're seeing here that from the swing. Okay, I'm pulling this from the wrong. Let me adjust this real fast. Pull here. Basically, same kind of numbers here. We're seeing it failed at that 72.13, never really broke out, and now just kind of like downward pressure. You could potentially call this like a head and shoulders pattern here. So you have the neckline right here, you have the shoulder 1, the shoulder 2, and this is like the head here. So just imagine this person's shoulder like this, the shoulder pattern, and this is like the that support shoulder line. And once it broke past this, which is like 57, 56 range, it just said goodbye, see you later, Sally. Looks like some news probably potentially came out there. I don't know what happened. That's a lot of volume on that down day. That is very interesting to see. Potentially finding some floor support potentially at this initial bounce here at 35.61. Could that go lower? Sure, why not? We can easily potentially even go back to below 30. I don't know. I know you know these pharmaceutical stocks much better than I do. I usually don't like to play in this kind of realm because I get burnt and I get hurt really fast, and it hurts my feelings. And it's never a good day to get hurt and lose money at the same time. So that's that one on EDIT there, Dave. What's up, Kelly? Looking for Tesla? Yeah, we can look at Tesla. Great news. They had their fantastic, wasn't an earnings report. It was like more of a board slash like investment kind of like progression day on basically announcing that they're fully moving to Texas with their facilities. They're going forth potentially licensing some of their data to third parties, all that kind of stuff. That's really interesting things to say about that. So within Tesla, again, being a pretty large Tesla bull, which I think you know that, Kelly, from my understanding on this one. Definitely looking for trying to make its way to that $823. That's going to be a very positive push. We do have earnings coming out very soon, so 10/20. That's very much around the corner. So that's less than 2 weeks away. So that's going to be something to be very well mindful about. Again, Tesla is a very volatile company. The expected move for that week is going to be fairly high. You can see the implied volatility at 68. It's around an $80 move plus or minus. So that's going to be a pretty drastic move within Tesla. But again, being a Tesla bull, I like to see this doing well here. Initially, we kind of zoom in here a little bit on the daily side. We're seeing some a pattern kind of appear here. We're holding the 34 EMA multiple times on the way up. So if it does pull back initially before earnings or even after earnings, we're going to be looking for that support here around 750 to around 760 as of today. If the overall market wants to pull back and just kind of just take a big poop in our hands, that is definitely going to be out of the cards, and we're going to potentially see it go lower here because, again, it is tied to the S&P 500 on that. Again, to the upside, we want to really see this back above 823. And honestly, once it starts breaking above 900, that's going to be very interesting. That's going to be when a lot more activity potentially can come in. Because if you look here on the volume side, so if you look here at the volume side, that has been very quiet for amount of volatility that we've had in the market here. It's been very quiet, not really too much. There was quite a bit of volume kind of picking up here around that $600 range. But even once it came back down to 600, it really didn't have too much sellers in that fact. So that's kind of tells you an interesting story there, to be quite honest, to kind of see on how that one does play out. Shareholder day, yeah, that's correct. Sorry, I didn't have the right words. How about Sony? What's the ticker symbol for Sony there, Joe? I'm surprised Tesla didn't hold above 800 though. Yeah, the overall market just feels a little weird right now. A lot of things in action and play. Alpaca, what's up, my dude? Hey, buddy, how's my boy PLTR doing? Yes, PLTR, you know it. I gotta thank Alpaca so very much. He's the one who, I think you pinged me in Discord. You're like, bro, this is gonna pop, and I was buying like a lot. Not a lot, but I was buying. They didn't have options at the time. I was just buying handfuls of stock because it was really interesting. Looked at the company, something that could be pretty good play. So again, that was a very nice play coming through there. Again, thank you so much for those that Alpaca. Looking for PLTR. It's kind of coming back into support. This is something to be looking for, to kind of see this potentially continue to hold here around 2365 to 2350. This can easily come back down to 2250. God only knows. This thing moves very sporadically. It could have good news, bad news, no news. It just can kind of move. We thought that it was going to potentially try to stay above 27, but that didn't last very long. And just kind of just fell off the cliff here. But now it has a pretty strong support here around that higher 22.75s to around that $23 range in that fact. But there isn't too much to look forth on this one as of right now. So if again we zoom out to the weekly chart, that kind of tells the same kind of pattern here. This thing is just kind of bouncing around a little bit, just kind of waiting for the next explosive move on earnings, most likely. The ticker for Sony is Sony. Oh, it is. Oh, great. I didn't know that. Sony Group, yes. So Sony, Yeah, with the PS5, we got the holiday season kind of turning the corner. That is definitely something to be well aware about. I'm actually going to look at this here. I don't know why this is not pinging me. There we go. Initially, maybe there's nothing. Let me look on the weekly side. It's an interesting pattern. It honestly looks like, like the IWM or the rut in that pattern here. It's very choppy here, very aggressive moves. I don't know why these moves really happen, if it's because of the shortages of the PlayStation 5. I don't know, or what's going on and what these investors or traders are thinking about here. But definitely seeing some initial patterns kind of play out here, finding some floor support around 102 to 100. Again, but having a lot of issues kind of breaking above that previous high around 118. So be very mindful about that if we do see that potential pattern trying to break out here. But this is not my favorite kind of pattern. It's not like a very slow, kind of like methodical, like slowly trending sideways. This is just super aggressive. This is almost like trying to catch like a crazy jumping around grasshopper. It's just kind of just jumping around left and right. It's not like a slow moving snail, which I don't think you want to invest in a slow moving snail, but something that's like a nice little easy trend following. This is something a little bit too choppy for my taste. Let's see here. Have you been watching Dota? I haven't. MKS, what if the following sorts invested into strengths and advantages of dyslexia? Question mark. Berkshire Hathaway. Because I know there's some others too. Berkshire Hathaway, yes. Berkshire Hathaway is always. Was it BK? Oh, BK. Oh, Berkshire. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank here. Berk, BRKE. Berkshire. It's a Berkshire Hathaway A. No, we don't want A. We want the B. Yeah, the A is like 350,000, right? Yeah, this is the same kind of pattern. This is really like the same. Like if you look at the Russell again, well, this is on the weekly side. Let's go to the daily side. It's just kind of been kind of meandering around. So we're kind of like put this in this little isolation box here. We can actually just draw this within Thinkorswim. We're just going to draw like this penalty box here. It's just kind of not doing next to nothing. This is like when an iron condor is really great in options here. This thing hasn't really done much of anything since the whole summer and into the fall here. Not really going to be able to break above 300 and not really breaking below that 270 range. So it's within just kind of bouncing around this $300 or $30 range and not really getting past at any of those kind of zones here. So potentially to the upside, I'm going to be a little bit more bullish because I think Berkshire Hathaway is a great run company and it's going to be around for a long time, no matter even after Warren Buffett passes. That this is definitely going to be moving up to that 295 range. But if it does lose steam here, it can easily kind of meander and come back down. But we're really looking to kind of see this kind of pop above this range here to kind of see this really move. Ben, thank you for the thumbs up. Yeah, guys, if you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate it if you just hit that thumbs up on the video there. AFRM, have you had Icarus moment flying too high? Yeah, Affirm is definitely something that I'm a little bit afraid. I'm kind of having some faith in it on the technical side of things. This is something that has been a pretty big winner, honestly, for myself. Seeing this kind of meander around. We talked about this one on the Discord quite a bit around this range here, and then finding this support here around 108, and just kind of been trading sideways. And now just seeing it kind of really rocket ship taking off, very much in a growth phase, especially coming into that holiday season. Affirm is, I think, fantastically positioned to kind of really take this on. And I think there's going to be a lot more buyers coming in if we get any kind of staying power. Honestly, they're above 146 to 150 range. If we can break past that and stay above that range here, I think we can easily see this thing go flying. And again, if the rest of the year is positive and things are moving flow and folks are happy, and the markets, by folks I mean are happy, I mean the markets are happy, that 174 to 175 can be easily met, Johnny, or whoever asked this question. Ronaldo was asking for root. Yes, I was looking at root for a longer term play. It hasn't seen any much. It's kind of meandering here. It's very much kind of like an aggressive downward trend. It is kind of bouncing around these ranges. Don't know anyone who actually has this as an insurance. That's what I was looking into on how it plays out. Basically, people don't like to be tracked, whatever. Anywho, with root, there's not really too much going on here unless you have a good fundamental understanding, because again, this was a newer IPO. Really like to see this potentially. It's already had 4 quarters, so it's kind of getting that sweetheart, a honeymoon phase of IPOs, getting out of the rust of it. I think once we start seeing 1 or 2 more quarters, we can maybe find a potential bottom wherever that could lie on this stock here. I would like to buy it, but I just can't get myself to buy it right now. Hey Ken, I have notifications for you and even click the reminders for your channel, and never forget notified when you have a video out or go live. But this week for now, Johnny, I don't know. That's something that YouTube doesn't. I don't know if YouTube likes what I do. But Johnny was never get notified. That's sad to hear. What's your thoughts on FedEx? Yeah, FedEx got slammed on their earnings. They're talking about like shortages of workers. They're probably going to get super slammed during the holiday season. They're talking about into the winter. Really want to look at this one at a longer time frame here, and what we're looking at here is that notion here. Again, we were looking for some initial support coming in around 226. It has broken past that and is not really kind of a very aggressive downward movement, because again, it was that earnings report that really kind of drove it lower here. Could this maybe a rebound? I would like to see this maybe consolidate maybe 1 or 2 more weeks around that like 230-ish range, and maybe seeing it break out to those levels there. But this is definitely a hard one to kind of play, because again, that was a pretty steep falling knife there, which is not usually my favorite kind of pattern to trade there. Johnny's asking for Clover. Yes. Ooh. So Clover is something that it's just kind of just chilling, right? Like it's not really doing much of anything, right? Like just like we just looked at root, it had a sadly this was kind of cooped up within the meme stocks kind of scenarios, and it hasn't really gone anywhere since then. It is kind of meandering here. It's below the 144 EMA here, which is that green line here. There's a little bit of volume bumps coming in or out, but each time it tries to get some kind of momentum going, it's kind of failing at that 34 EMA each time there, Johnny, and not seeing that kind of like really strong follow through. Maybe this is the week. Again, on Friday, closed up nearly 6%. It was actually a little bit more intraday, but this is definitely something that could get that bid, because again, it has this crazy moves in its DNA. So if it's in its DNA, it could happen again. And then Smile Direct, yeah, SDC. This thing also, same kind of pattern here, not to the same extent. This has been a very downward kind of facing stock here, but now potentially the bleeding has stopped and things are kind of starting to lighten the load here, because you can kind of see this little box here. We're kind of potentially building some support here. So if we zoom out to the weekly side, that could potentially show us a little bit more data, which yeah, I hate when it does that. Why does it do that? Let me just do it this way. Get this out of the way. That volume really just throws everything off with this 144 EMA here. it kind of falling through here and not seeing it. Really wanting to see it back above this like $7.90 to around $8 range to kind of see anything kind of pick up at that range. So that's going to be really kind of breaking to that $8 range, which was that previously downward trend. You do see I have an alert at $9 talking about a potential pop here. We also have a squeeze set in place. We have some really strong volume kind of coming into it as well. Again, we had like an A, B, C, D pattern. So we could see this kind of rocket ship higher potentially to the $7.60 to $8 range potentially in the, in the short term. All right, let's see. Dave's XLI, big swing down and back up. Yes. Oh, yes. This is all about that wonderful, that Congress just trying to figure out that infrastructure bill, right? Really just plays a little bit of a better story on the weekly side. Very aggressive patterns coming in here. If we do not hold and stay above like that $98 to $99 range, we could easily see a break to 95, and 95 when it can get in some trouble here. If we start breaking below that, that could really cause some damage within those particular stocks and this particular ETF, which is moved by the stocks. Boss Nation is asking for NIO. Yes, NIO, which is the Chinese Tesla, whatever other people call it, electric car play, battery swapping company. Looking for this one, same kind of pattern, had that crazy move of late last year, some movement this year, and just kind of coasting here a little bit due to a lot of the Chinese, even with like the Chinese like crackdowns and other things. If you look like at Billy or whatever, Alibaba, JD, they've had these huge sells off. NIO has been holding in there. Like, it's been holding in there quite very well, actually. I don't know too much fundamentally talking about the company, but the chart here, that $35 to $36 range potentially could be a level of support here. If we do see some more good follow through days and some good news coming through, this definitely could potentially pick up and get back up to $40 to $41 here. But that's going to be some weight on its shoulders to kind of break past those ranges there. Due diligence, can we look at Affirm and Netflix? Open short on both. Yeah, Affirm we kind of did look at, so I'm actually long Affirm still, where I got in initially here with earnings. I played very small, did fantastic. Been buying here around the 110 to 108 range. Potentially looking for it to go higher here. If it starts breaking above 146 due diligence, that's going to be something that you might have to be a little bit careful about, because once that 146 breaks and we see a huge, even a larger increase in volume, that's when all those cup and handle folks, the growth investors, are jumping in here and really can bid this up really fast. So we're looking for potentially 174, 175 if that does happen. To the downside, really looking for that support around 108 to hold. That's what I'm looking at. But again, from 141 to 108, that's a lot of money right there that can be lost. My NIO calls are killing me. I'm having diamond hands, or bust. My wife kills me. I'm sorry to hear that. Just be very careful. This game is real. Can my man remember GOE, CVX? They started spiking recently. Please tell me what you think. Certainly, Nick. GEO. Yeah, that's a nice little pattern here. So we're seeing here very kind of like a simplistic kind of potentially. I just draw that complete crooked. What's this, around $8.50? If that does, wow, it closed exactly at $8.50 too. That's a quink-a-dink. So potentially seeing this break out here, we can draw a quick fib for you, my friend. Draw the swing high to the swing low right here. So yeah, if we do see a break above $8.50 to around $9, that's potentially what we could see happen on that movement there, and then potentially maybe make its run to $10.08 intraday, because again, this previous candle here was never closed really above anything, but it had a huge move intraday on that particular pattern there. And then CXW. Yeah, same kind of pattern here. This one is looking quite impressive here. I actually kind of like this pattern just slightly better because it is trying to make its way out of this little like overhead trend line support here with the squeeze set in place. A nice little bump in volume. If we can continue to see this kicking higher to break above and stay above that $10 range, this thing definitely could run. That's a nice little candidate there, my friend. Oh, and talk. Mental health is big. Ooh, I didn't know. What is talk? Is that something new? Talkspace.com. I don't know. I never heard of this one. I like if it's, what does it say it is? Talk is formerly Hudson Corp. It's a digital and virtual behavioral health company. The company's therapies. Okay. Interesting. The stock the chart not looking too well. I think that it's a great premise. I 100% agree. Mental health and therapy is super key for a lot of folks in that side. But looking at the chart, it's kind of in a downward trending pattern here. Definitely, this probably was a SPAC, if I'm guessing right, honestly, because the way it was talked about, it was called something else, and now it's called something new. Clearly, it was a SPAC, spun off, maybe didn't have the best folks behind it, and this really just kind of just took it like a nosedive here, and that's not really looking too hot there, honestly, do. This one has been taking a beating since last earnings. Thoughts on Fastly? Whoa, I haven't heard that one forever. Wow, what is that one doing? Hi caramba, I caramba. Wow, I gotta do a quick little memory loop here. Yeah, yeah, that definitely did something there, right? That is very, very not fortunate here. It is finding some kind of level of support here around $40, which we've talked about previously before here. After its previous earnings, potentially moving higher here. So I think that $40 range is fairly safe on the short-term side. The only thing I'm a little hesitant about, it has earnings coming around the corner here to potentially see if this kind of plays out. That's not usually my favorite cup of tea to kind of play that around that corner. Boss, you're welcome. Joe's asking for Apple. Yes. Apple, same kind of pattern here. It's hitting a long-term trend line here coming into play here, which is around that 141 to 141.50 here, potentially kind of showing some level of support coming through here. Really going to be a large tell because, again, it also has earnings coming out on the 28th of October. So that's just right around the corner as well. But again, you have to remember Apple's also tied to Goldman Sachs because they're the one who kind of does their phone kind of things. In the same time that we have TSM as well coming out this week. So TSM is the Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturer, and they are the ones that are helping Apple produce their M1 chips. So that's silicon for them on that front. So basically looking for this one to potentially hold around 107 there. Tesla, please, asking Jeff. Yeah, Tesla, definitely going to be a hot commodity for sure. That 800 is definitely a range to be looking for. I'm really looking for 823 to break and above there, Jeff, is a level from the Fibonacci tree from the swing high to swing low here. That $800 would be great, but really what we need to see for the bulls to win here is a break and staying above 823 here. To the downside, we do have some support around $762 to around $753. I know that's quite a large range there, but it is Tesla, and you know it's volatile, right? Dew says that I forgot Netflix. My bad, dude. Thank you for keeping myself in check. Netflix, honestly, that is one that I wasn't expecting this to happen. Honestly, Dew. This is something like it is kind of I was flabbergasted about. We talked about this like it was in this purgatory box for, I cannot draw straight lines today. What the hell? Like this little box here, and it just continued to fail and fail, and finally broke out. Bada bing, bada bang, and just kind of now it's off to the races. Again, this is on the weekly chart. It's holding that 8 EMA, and it's really kind of taken somewhat of a rocket ship here. So and kind of just gone off on the rails on that front. So definitely something that is somewhat of a raging bull right now within Netflix to kind of see this one continue to move here. I'm looking here strictly on the daily chart here again. Initial support coming around 620, and then even coming back down to around the 34 EMA, which is around right now is around 590 as of right now. Thoughts on Chinese stocks? 10. Yeah, Baba's not. It's still the same story, honestly. So looking here on the weekly side, there hasn't really been much of a change here. Like, it's still downward trending. Yes, it had a hell of a green day, and it's been crazy moving higher here, but it's not breaking any levels. It just looks great on a daily side, but the overall pattern is not really showing any. It can. I'm not saying I'm being negative, but I'm like, it hasn't shown itself to me properly on seeing it kind of build a floor support here. It's still fairly aggressively pulling down here. That's a huge green candle. But guess what? We've seen this before, right? Like, I'm not going to be too flabbergasted about it. Like, we had this one, huge green candle, these kind of plays here, but we've kind of went up and this kind of failed at support here. Initially speaking, this 8 EMA here on, again, the weekly side, we failed here multiple times. So around, what's that, like 162, 163, we've kind of just failed here multiple times. To really see this kind of come back here, we need to kind of build some kind of floor support here, kind of like a swooshing kind of a cup pattern here on the weekly side here, and maybe start seeing it break past. Again, this sounds really aggressive. We need to start seeing it back above $200. $200. So that's 200 to kind of see that one kind of come back into play here. For my kind of looking at my kind of trading here, looking at that pattern. Then you looked at another one, because like it's FXI is the one that I look at the ETF, and this looks just exactly like Alibaba, right? If we can kind of just draw this pattern out here, it is initially kind of building some floor support here around $38.16 for FXI, which is the Chinese ETF to follow there. Let's see here. Joe, you're welcome. Jeff, what are your thoughts on buying stocks around earnings? Not my best thing, Joe. So if you really want to be pushing the envelope, if you're saying, like, let's say, I'm just gonna throw a number out there, you want to buy $1,000 of a particular stock, I would not be buying more than 25% of it initially before earnings. That's my rule of thumb. Kelly D is asking for Riot and some Bitcoin miners. Yeah, how are they? I haven't looked at them in a while. Yeah, kind of sloppy here. A little bit of a chop pattern here. Potentially a head and shoulders in play here with a pretty strong neckline around $33.38 here. Potentially resistance on the upward side around $42.69. Yeah, I did say 69. And then we're looking for Riot, another Bitcoin miner. Different pattern here where this has not really seen that kind of a bounce back for some whatever reason. This is definitely kind of something that's been kind of failing here. Maybe kind of building a little bit stronger floor support here around 25 here. And maybe seeing a swing back, but this is a little bit more of a beaten down kind of chart on that one, Kelly. And John, thank you, my friend. $10. Wow. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for taking your personal time to stream and provide great stock information. Lunch on me. Thank you again, John. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. Really do appreciate it. Nick says, Hall and XCon, you think these will be back a little bit? Whoa, keep skyrocketing. What do I think about HA? Halliburton, that's Halliburton, right? So I'm in some oil stuff. Halliburton's definitely what you have to really look at, especially these plays, Nick. For me, to get the best picture on these kind of stocks is I look at it on a weekly side and really zooming out to kind of better tell me a better picture here. So what this tells me, especially, I don't even have to know it's in an oil company. Yes, oil has been hot. The crisis that we're talking about of like things are ramping back up. The potential shortage of heating and natural gas and all this kind of stuff that's not really expanding in other parts of the country, and especially the Northeast. I've read a lot of reports, especially in the Northeast, where they're not allowing new, not drilling, but like pipelines to pump this kind of stuff in that area. Because again, demand's continue going higher, but the supply is very low. So it's again the basics of supply and demand. If you took economics, basically 101. So with Halliburton directly here, that this level here on 2360 basically has been pretty key resistance here in the short term here, and we're seeing 1, 2, potentially 3. Is this the question mark to potentially see it go higher here? Maybe. Are times changing and potentially seeing this kind of skyrocket? Maybe, maybe not, right? Again, it's Halliburton. It's not like a Tesla stock is going to jump up $20 in a single day here, but this thing can make a nice steady eddy move. It is paying you not too much of a dividend, but that's whatever on that front if you're playing that kind of stock there. But yeah, it's looking interesting. If it does pull back, we're going to be looking for some level of support around $20.72. XOM, same kind of pattern here. We're talking about this one potentially broke my trend line. So this was one that I was playing XOM with some December calls, potentially going up to $65. The one that I'm currently still in is actually Chevron. So this has definitely been a monster here. This is actually with stock here in my longer term account to potentially see this kind of play out here, buying it here around $97 to $98 here, building the position up and looking at to potentially touch and look at around 111 to 110 here to potentially be those first levels of targets going forth there. Dollar Bills is saying, hey, Ken, how's your night going? It's going fantastic. I'm super happy that everyone's coming out and enjoying stocks. Love it, love it, love it. Ken, what do you think about Netflix chart? Seems like it could be explosive move and going into earnings. 100% honestly, Dollar Bill. So we talked to this about, and I don't know if your Dollar Bill is the reference to the character from Billions, which is a fantastic character. From that show here, but this is definitely what we just talked about here. This was on the weekly side, but especially on the daily side, this has definitely been a very aggressive stock, really breaking out of this like trading range here. And again, with earnings, it's usually not my favorite play, especially playing options going into earnings. If you're buying them, selling premium, sure, but it's a little bit more risk averse for me, and playing that kind of patterns out. But with Netflix making an all-time high just as a Thursday, it is a very strong pattern to say the least. And again, looking for some initial support to the downside around 612 to around 617 or something like that. 615 to around 612 is that initial level support to the downside if we do see anything. But again, to the upside is continues going to be driving by that 8 EMA here on that notion of momentum going forth. Dodger saying, asking for MU. Yes, MU is definitely one that's on my list. I've seen this one kind of building like this weird. So looking again on the weekly side, this weird pattern here. I've had this. It's been dinged multiple times around that $70 range is kind of a sweet spot. With earnings coming around the corner, I'm a little bit more hesitant to buy it. I might be buying some stock of this, so I don't have to be worried too much about the wrong chart. the complete stock of it. So with earnings behind it, sorry, and we're seeing it potentially show some levels of support here around $70, but it's not like the world's greatest pattern here, because again, you see this basic trend line that I've kind of drawn here from the top going all the way down. Potentially the $70 range could be its consolidation range, and it's kind of bouncing around and waiting to potentially perk its head out and kind of break out higher again, looking for some initial targets around basically 77 to around $80 if we do see that really positive movement higher in that range. Client Deep Faith is, do you think if UUP continues to edge higher and people bringing to pile in the dark could be a fear indicator? The fear indicator for me is always just the VIX, to be quite honest with you. So this is what I'm looking at for the fear gauge, whatever the volatility index, that kind of thing. You're saying UUP. I'm not too familiar with that one. This is you're talking about more about the dollar index. So the higher dollar, it's gonna be better, I guess, for like U.S. companies. But again, it to be better for like internal stuff within the dollar. But using the dollar outside is less like better in that sense, because again, with exchange rates and so forth, and again, people's fear of inflation is also a concern here as well. So looking here strictly on a weekly side, we are potentially coming into some, actually a very key level here. So let me actually do a quick fib here. This is such a very good point you pointed out here. Yeah, that's very interesting. So that $25.23 on especially UUP is potentially kind of coming out here to be maybe a little bit of a sign off here, because the last time we've been kind of below this 144 EMA for some time here. So the rise of the dollar prices could be a cause of effect potentially here. Other energy stocks to look out for is LPI, FANG, and BTU. Yeah, I don't know too much about like the whole industry, so I just honestly own XLE. So this is the sector for energy ETF for SPY, and this is just something that I've been buying in here basically all the way up here from this previous move here, around $44, and added a little bit here again around 48, and seeing this really kind of pay off here and looking for this potentially to get back above 60 and potentially touch $66. Again, that could be a dream there, but this stock is definitely, especially if you have anything to do or have traded or invested in oil or in energy companies, they have definitely been down and out for a long, long time. Can we check out Luma? What is it that LILMN? Yeah, nothing too exciting here. Honestly, this is a very like aggressive downward pattern here. We're looking for some support here on 380 here, very easily seen on the chart here. Let me look out to the weekly side. This potentially could fall into that 618. Yeah, kind of that the 50 percentile move. So 376 potentially with some level of support here. But again, I'm not usually a biggest fan of that very downward pattern there. Greg, what's up, my dude? What's going on with CAR? Let's take a look at CAR. Yeah, holy shnikes! Did not see that. Are the boys and girls on Wall Street bets on this one again? What is happening here? Did not see that. Definitely a clear break here. Again, this is like a very like the simplistic trend following stuff here. When it broke around 96 this thing just kind of took off here and just really went to the races, as they say. Breaking to a key level here around 228. So I want to zoom back out to the weekly side here. There's going to be some previous levels here from the swing high to swing low. Again, this is again due to the extreme high demand potentially of people going on vacation again. Car rentals have been through the roof, especially during the summertime. But this one right now is just very much have gone parabolic. And what I mean by parabolic, it is really just kind of hugging this 8 EMA here, which it can last for some time. But this is a very momentum driven stock right now, and it really is not having it's not really traded by the folks that are looking at the balance sheet. They're not the fundamental kind of the trades of the investors. This is really much just a moving up fest in this stock. So multiple things can happen. They can continue going higher. It can start trading sideways, or it can just sell off, right? So this is usually what happens with these kind of momentum stocks. You just have to kind of keep an eye on that moving average and seeing how it potentially plays and how it reacts to it, how it supports it. Because again, it's clearly showing support for it, because again, it has not really touched it at all. It's just been continued just kind of grinding and going higher, higher, and higher. But yeah, are you in this one, Greg? That's a nice trade right there, or a nice investment, depending on what you got in. Anyone asked about SoFi? They have not. This is one that, Kelly, I think you've been with me for a while, that you know I had high hopes for this one. I've been buying it here around that 1450 to 1440-ish range. It hasn't done much of anything to me. It's kind of just still beaten up. I think if you listen to the earnings report, especially the CEO, with the lack of luster of student loan debt, that since that's been on hold for a lot of folks, they have not really received that revenue here. So SoFi has kind of been expanding their market. They have like kind of released some interesting stuff on the stock, like trading app, like kind of comparing with Robinhood, and other factors within their banking business, and just kind of trying to become more of a newer millennial money kind of a trading kind of platform. John Jacobs, my previous questions might not have shown. Oh, I'm sorry if I missed it, John. I'm sorry. I might have missed it. I bought a bit more of PayPal during the dip last week in long term, but you're feeling a PayPal long term and Airbnb too. Sure, we'll take a looky, Lou. So I own PayPal as well for my long term account, John. So high five. Looking at this one is definitely had to look on the weekly side, and kind of tells a little bit of a better pattern here. The only thing, it did break past that 34 EMA, which we were looking for consistent kind of like bouncing around there, John, on the weekly side, but it didn't close below 257. So it's not, I'm not going to go out and just sell everything I have at 257. But I'm a little worrisome once we see the 8 cross through the 34, we potentially can come back down even lower to like 240 and then around like the 225-ish range. So I'm not going to be looking for that to be in that at those levels there, but that is something that could happen in those ranges there if we do see a large market pullback or any kind of like a stock here as well. Because again, it's like I kind of compare it to Square. It's the same potentially kind of pattern here. Square is a little bit healthier looking chart here. It is above the 34 EMA, but is the 8 EMA is also kind of slowing down and potentially maybe going to the danger zone into the 34 EMA. But yeah, Airbnb. Let's go Airbnb. Oh shoot. Yep, there it is. This one is interesting here for sure. Newer IPO, has almost 4 quarters out potentially. Again, huge explosive move with a positive IPO appearance. Kind of selling lower here again due to expectations, selling, whatever, that fund volatility of trading is coming into fruition. So normally with an IPO, I want to wait 3, 4, maybe even 5 to 6 quarters potentially to look into it. But this one with Airbnb's positive notion, really being much of a trend differential in the market here, and really just kind of offering something that and capitalizing on it and doing a really good job at it. Like Airbnb is nothing really new. Like people have always rented out a spare room or a vacation home or something like that. They just made it more popular and cool. Initially looking here, looking for this again, positive notion to kind of continue to stay above that 34 EMA, so around 163 to 164. Potentially looking for some floor, a level of resistance on the way up around 176 to around 182. So 182 would be the next level we would want to see here if it does get to that range there. A good bound on it. So I don't own Airbnb, but I own Marriott. I want to own Airbnb, but not yet. Marriott is just something that I think could break out a little bit more. Again, it's a little bit more of an older term trading. We're talking about its previous high before the pandemic was around this 150-ish range. Finally seeing that break out here into this week here. Again, longer term trade here. It is a little bit more elevated from the 8 EMA here, so potentially looking for it slowly to grind up and break above 160 and looking for some targets 18 months down the road around 180-ish. So again, but what do you mean by 18 months? So maybe a year plus, we're talking about an expected move of $65 within by January 2023. That's more than 18 months, but again, it's falling into that range. We want to see it at least move up $30 to $40 to kind of see a positive return on that investment for myself. So that's that on those. You got any more questions? Looks like I actually caught up. I hope I didn't miss anyone. If I did, please don't repost. I'm not that guy that's going to yell at you for reposting 3 or 4 times, because I try to do my very best, and it's with all the chat going through, and some of them a little bit more longer than others, and I sometimes I think I do it, but then I miss it, but whatever. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. You're welcome, John, and thank you again for the $10. Another one that I wanted to talk about, which actually we did talk about a hair. Surprised no one brought it up, was the old Facebook, right? So actually 2 things. MGM. So MGM, again, is a casino company, right? Resort, entertainment, whatever you want to call it. This thing is looking very poised for move higher here. Again, it was actually looking better here around $42, but again, if it does pull back to at least 43 to 42.40, I'm going to be adding to the position. I bought 25% of my overall allotted amount for it already. But looking for if it does pull back and hold at least above $42 here. But looking for this again to really break out and potentially start reaching its $50 to $52 range here within MGM. Again, the options that I'm looking at is basically the December to January timeframe. So again, we're looking for a move of basically $7+ to $10 plus. So again, those January options does give me that notion. Again, I am buying in the money options though and playing it more like synthetic stock. Kelly's asking for McDonald's. Yes, look at some Mickey D's. Wow. It is hitting a level here. So what levels am I pulling from here? It looks like, okay, from the previous swing high to low, that low that we saw way back when, I don't know why this is spinning here. Some way from low to high from that pandemic low. Really aggressive move here coming into play here, hitting that 127. Beautiful looking chart here. Actually doesn't look too great on the daily side. Looks a little crazy choppy here, but once you zoom out to the weekly side, this looks pretty nice here. Some initial short-term support around 241. But again, if we start seeing a break above 248, let's call it 250, this thing could maybe continuously can carry us higher to above 270, maybe even to 280, depending on how the overall economy does. Another one I wanted to talk about is the old Facebook. I'm surprised no one brought up Facebook. Maybe they did. but I just didn't see it. Again, I do apologize for that in advance. So with Facebook, this is definitely something that has been slaughtered due to the whistleblower and the documentation on the negative information. I'm pretty sure everyone has seen and heard about it. This is definitely something that's kind of pulling back into this range here. But guess what? It's bouncing right onto this previously long-term trend line. So I'm gonna be maybe I took a couple mid bits at it by selling some premium on it, and it was pretty nice because premium was really nice on those options here. Especially if you look on a daily side, this looks ugly, right? But again, we're falling right into some level of support here. Maybe kind of turning the base here with earnings around the corner. We'll see on how that does affect, because again, we did talk about with the new iOS, was it 15.1 or whatever, as kind of taking out the tracking that Apple or Facebook has been used to on like people's history and cookies and what they're viewing and so forth. So that being said, we'll see on how that Facebook plays out. But again, that was just a very short-term trade that we did there. Nick is asking for old Wally Mark. Yeah, WMT. This thing has fallen pretty hard. I was in this one quite a bit here, Nick, but I got slapped in the side of the head here around 142 once it kind of broke here and never really got rebounded here. Now the actually floor support potentially was actually lower here, maybe potentially this 136 here. Should have been a little bit more patient here, but you know, again, I am human. I do make mistakes. So this is again that one floor support here. We're talking about the two floor support here. So is this number 3 floor support? I am not sure. Question marks for days there. I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell, but we know that this is potentially is a pretty keen level of floor support here, and we can maybe see a rebound coming into here, at least in the short term, if that does hold there. What usually happens when stocks excuse me. What usually happens when stocks hit their fib numbers? It depends on what fib numbers they hit. Normally, if they break above their 100% move and start hitting to the 127 and 1618, those are always like key targets to trim, to be quite honest. So I'm trying to think of a good one that I can just think about real fast. Oh, Bitcoin's a good one, right? So Bitcoin, this is actually going back much further here from the swing high to swing low here. I'm actually going to update this to kind of show you how crazy fibs are, especially on cryptos. So looking here at Bitcoin at the fib level here from the swing high to swing low, basically just this year, we've kind of hit these levels here. That 618 is like a very important level on the Fibonacci tree. That's a very common level to be resistance or support. It's kind of just a number depending on where the chart goes. It doesn't tell you exactly what's going to happen. It's just a very a mental number that has seen its pattern recognition, especially in nature. And again, you kind of saw it hit and then just failed, maybe tried again and kind of broke past it. So if we start seeing this Bitcoin break above the 78.6 percentile move, which is around 57,000, and then hit its all-time high at 65K plus, that is something very positive, and we get some very large volume behind it. It can easily make its way to 75K. That's going to be its very longer-term key target within Bitcoin on that front there. And that's basically the way the fibs could potentially help you potentially find floors of support here. It also helps when the fib numbers kind of line up with maybe the 34 or the 144 EMA and they're both kind of stacked up nicely. That always plays nicely as well. But again, each chart's different, but the fibs numbers are just not a single source of truth. They're just a potential lens to kind of potentially tell a more in tune story of where things could potentially happen and go. So if you guys have any more questions, please let me know. Thanks again for all your experience, Ken. If you ever get what does that say? Preferable again, I'll be sure to share below. you guys got any more questions, please put it in the chat. If not, I will be signing off, and I will try my darnest to make videos, especially I know people love those large options trading videos and things like that with the unusual trading options activity, all that kind of stuff. I think people really do enjoy those. We'll hopefully find some more time to do that. It's much easier just kind of just turn the camera on and just chit chat with folks and kind of feed off that rather than trying to sitting around and thinking about what to do if I do have the time, and then you gotta encode it and all that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, on that note, thanks guys so much. Kelly, again, yep, take it easy. You learn something new every time. I appreciate that, Kelly. I really do. Thank you so much. All right, folks, you guys have a great trading week again. We want to talk about those earnings coming out, so that's going to be really wrapped up around that Thursday, Friday, especially I think we have a Fed meeting or something with the Fed on Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember. But so much information to track. Have fun. Remember, don't bet on everything. Just have a plan when you're trading or investing. The plan is key in sticking to it, and risk management, and cut losses fast. All right, guys, ladies, gentlemen, have a great evening, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.